welcome everybody. I'm Jacqueline Winstanley. I'm the founder and CEO of Universal Inclusion and the Inclusive Entrepreneur. So I have a portfolio career, which I think for all of my life really has been around increasing equality of access to life's opportunities. I lead on the Women in Enterprise All-Party Parliamentary Group in Westminster on diversity and inclusion. I'm an ambassador for the Pink Shoe Club, which supports women in enterprise, and the 50/50 Parliament campaign and Filia. I'm a trustee of Disability Rights UK. I'm the advisory board chair for Ability Today and a member of Women in Sport. I'm also an author and a poet. So that's me. Now again, we're small enough, I think, to introduce each other. Sharon, if you start, please.
Yes, I will. Well, it's good afternoon, isn't it? Can I just, just remind Jacqueline, she's also an ambassador for Glamsticks as well.
Thank you. I knew I'd missed something.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lady Sharon Farley-Mason. A bit of a mouthful there, but what I do is not a mouthful. I own a company called Glamsticks. The company came about after I was medically retired from my job, after having first an accident that nearly killed me, then an operation that didn't go to plan, and my career was down the tubes basically. So I bought a company called Glamsticks, and since then we've rocketed, apart from this lull that we've got at the moment, and I basically bespoke mobility aids for people with disabilities. But in these uncertain times, I'm expanding that range onto other things like, you know, clocks, glasses, like glasses what people wear, and other small items as well, you know. Even my dogs walk around with bling on them, so so that's me basically. That's yeah, me. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Grant, are you okay to just do a brief intro?
Okay, my name's Grant Logan. I'm the founder of Ability Today. We're an online platform providing products, services and support to the disabled community, and we also provide opportunities for the disabled to go out and report on events going on around them, and giving them opportunities to do great things like go water skiing and skydiving and gliding and flying, and just trying to raise self-belief and confidence within the disabled community. We were also about to start our Academy for Disabled Journalists at the beginning of April, but that's now on hold for a short amount of time, hopefully only. Yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you. Patricia?
Hello.
Hello, Patricia, welcome.
Actually, I was not expecting to have, you know, I was expecting to learn about your community.
If you want to stay in the background, that's fine. If you'd like to introduce yourself, you're very welcome.
Okay, my name is Patricia Gestoso. I'm not an entrepreneur. I actually work, I'm head of customer support for a large tech company, but I'm actually, time and time again, we see how our software is not inclusive at all. Actually, it is designed for basically white, male, able, single, and young. Okay, so, and I spearhead actually the first diversity and inclusion initiative from employees in my company. And I'm very interested in accessibility in general, because I work in chemical and science and engineering. And actually the problem we have, I think, is that we don't see people with most disabilities to use our software, because actually the software in general that engineers use is not accessible. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's more, I was here, I come to learn and to, to see if, I'm sure all of you have experience. So if there is anything, conversely, if it's something you think I can help to the group, very welcome.
That's great, because I would guess, I'm not going to say who of us are or aren't techie. Be useful, Patricia, to actually, as part of the discussions, for you to pick up what specific issues people have maybe as we go along when they're running their business. I think that'd be really helpful for everybody. So thank you. Could I bring Jackie in, please?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. It's my first time on anything like this, but I'm the co-founder of a company called Cesareo, and my colleague Mary Armitage will be telling you a little bit more about that later. So you might want to ask questions after Mary's spoken, perhaps.
Thank you. And John?
John Cowan. I run a company called Spirit Motorsport. We're a motor racing team. We also sell things such as hospitality, although there's not much racing going on at the moment. So that's a bit of a challenge. And we've also got a sort of sister company, Spirit Air, which does private jet charter, and was all ready to starting to gear up for Monaco. And obviously that's now not happening either. So challenging days.
Certainly are, certainly are. Well, thank you. It's lovely to see you. Loris, are you happy to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Loris Pasquarello. I'm a French student. I worked 3 months in London in an internship for Noreen Cesareo, the owner of Market Accents, and I'm really interested in the work of universal inclusion. So I like to attend to this meeting.
Lovely. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Right. Thank you, everybody. So a little bit about the inclusive entrepreneur then, for those of you that aren't involved or just starting to get to know us. So in essence, the inclusive entrepreneur is a global network to support people who have what we call in the UK protected characteristics that mean they face barriers when they want to enter into enterprise, particularly disabled people. And it's also encompassing people that want to work with us or support us. We started, I suppose, really in formally 2013. And since then, up until probably about 4 months ago, the things that we've done have been very much face-to-face events, seminars, conferences, etc. But what we felt was, as the organisation was growing, and also for me as a disabled entrepreneur, it wasn't possible always for me to travel the distances that people wanted me to go, particularly the international travelling. So decided we would put it as a digital platform. And as we all find ourselves in at the moment, this unprecedented time pushed me a little bit to start the briefings that we're doing now, in part because our members of the Inclusive Entrepreneur were really struggling and feeling not only what on earth is going to happen to the business, but also possibly a little bit left out of the conversation. So lots of measures being put into place to support people, but possibly not necessarily, not a criticism. I do think the government is doing some tremendous stuff at the moment in terms of what the measures that they're trying to put into place. But we do feel at the moment there's still some further measures to be put into place in respect of particularly disabled entrepreneurs and the specific difficulties they're going to face. Okay. Hi, Noreen and Aaron. Aaron, if you could introduce yourself, and then Noreen, please.
All right, so I'm Aaron Hornback. I am the founder and director of Horizon Health Network. It's a company where we deal with a holistic health of individuals from spirit, soul, body, also in the world you live. So with occupation, relationships, home life, and as well as economics, priorities in life, and how to make it well balanced.
Lovely, thank you. Noreen?
Right. Hi, everyone. There are a few people I don't know, so delighted to be here speaking to you. My name is Noreen, Cesareo, as you can see from the tag under my lovely photo. And I am the founder and principal of Market Accents, which is a strategic marketing and communications consultancy. I am very deeply committed towards women economic empowerment and education for girls, and also to opening up trade and markets for SMEs. So in fact, that's why I'm a bit late. Sorry, I was on another call and that overran, so I do apologize.
That's fine, thank you. Well, it's great to have everybody on board. The phrase, the Carpe Diem, I've noticed quite a few people starting to use it now, which is rather nice. So I just want to go through the kind of things that we're going to cover today. So we're going to look at some generic business advice, the disability related support that's out there at the moment, particularly the measures government are putting into place, our usual section on health and well-being, and showcase one of our inclusive entrepreneurs. And we are, I will introduce you in a little while to Mary Armitage, the co-founder of Cesareo, if that's the correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
And at the end, we always have opportunity for Q&A. Well, what I might do today is when we get to the disability related support element of things, I might bring in some specific questions from you at that point, because I think sometimes we're perhaps missing them off at the end. Okay, lovely. Thank you so much. If we move to the next one, please. Okay, so generic business advice. Now, what we have at the end of our presentation is a slide which has some links on, and those links go to the HMRC, the government sites, and all of the key sites that people look at the moment in terms of the measures that have been put in place to support people by government and others at this time. We've added something to that this week because somebody pointed me to the Martin Lewis podcasts, which I think we should get involved with. So we've actually put a link on to one of the podcasts that he's done with the BBC, where he's talking specifically about the measures government have put into place. And I have actually messaged him, and you know, let's hope we get a response. I've kind of again outlined there are specific things, not a criticism, but perhaps some other measures that could be put into place and could be taught. Very interesting podcast. I had a listen to it this morning, and I'm going to talk about a few things in terms of the generic stuff that's in there. I'm not going to give you specific updates on each aspect of it because, to be quite frank, I'm not financially qualified, and it's changing daily. So what I would guide you to is to click on those links because they are being updated all the time. But the generic things that we know they've put into place are, for instance, suspending the business rates, asking banks to provide loans to small businesses, micro businesses possibly, and others. And it's interesting because I think we talked about this last week, that initially some of the banks were possibly seeing this as an opportunity to actually make money from it and possibly put kind of clauses on people's homes, etc. But the government has stepped in, and it's good to see that. So the banks have actually, I think the announcement yesterday was that these loans will be interest free for the first 12 months, which is quite good to see. So I think what's happening is government is responding, putting things in place, and quite open to changing them where they're seeing there are some issues. So I do still feel if we could actually get our voice heard, then we would make some headway. The problem we're having at the minute, as we'll see in the next slide, despite our best efforts, we're not getting responses. So, you know, Martin Lewis might be an avenue. I noticed, and it's a weird way of doing it, I think the BBC in the morning are doing, it's a feature for 30 minutes talking about what's going on in the community. And perhaps if one of us wanted to, no names mentioned, Lady Sharon, perhaps get in touch with them, talk about what we're doing, and that might be another way that we could then raise some of these issues. So, you know, very much sort of sharing with them what we're doing as a network to support people. And that might give us an opportunity to have a conversation that way, but we'll see. But yeah, we'll see what Martin Lewis says, etc. I'm seeing now small businesses are applying for the grant, the business interruption grant. The different authorities have now seemed to have got their head around it, and they're allowing people to apply. It's going to be very interesting to see how that works, and whether people are successful in that. I think with all of these things, the demand is unprecedented. All of these systems and application processes are absolutely swamped. So it's catch-22. The more people can't get through, the more they're ringing, etc. And it just dams the system. So again, please do have a look at those specific links. And at the end, if there's anything you particularly want to ask, then we'll come back to you on that. Obviously, the banks are still at a very low interest rate. So if people are, because not you know, there are businesses out there who are still surviving and are still growing. So, you know, if you were just wanting to have a standard business loan, it's a good time to have a business loan. And again, you know, I am mindful that some of these things as well are not just around keeping your business going, but also keeping your families going as well, and other commitments that you have financially. So looking at what I've seen, the Martin Lewis podcast is very, very informative on things like that. So in terms of disability related support, and what I want to do now is bring you all in terms of capturing what you feel the issues are, because I'm going to come back with you very quickly and say, you know, again, what we've asked government for and what response we've had, and we haven't had one. So I think the time we have is perhaps best used, that if I can capture that today on our recorded briefing and send it to them as well. So if we could perhaps, you know, if people are prepared to go in turn and actually just talk about what the issues are for you at the moment in terms of, you know, what impact has this had on you? And if you have any thoughts about what measures you feel the government needs to put in place in addition to what it's doing, or the difficulties you might be experiencing in accessing any of the measures that they put into place. Now, I'm not going to pick on anybody. Is there anybody who wants to start us off with this? Lady Sharon?
Yeah, okay. We've talked about, you and I have talked about the difficulties that are out there, haven't we? The difficulties are that my support worker is one of those that has to isolate for 3 months for the 12-week period, because she is on certain medication and has illnesses that she is not allowed to mix with others, which is a bit of a pain for me. Now, my issue is, do I carry on paying her? Do I stop paying her because I have luckily another support worker to step into the breach to take over from her? And I've wrote to Lindsay Hoyle twice, I think it is now, isn't it, Jacqueline? We've done it twice now. And sadly, we haven't had any reply whatsoever to say, you know, the issues that are arising with support that we need to have to run our, you know, to run our businesses. I mean, okay, I'm having to, like I was said earlier on, I'm having to look at other things to do, but it's basically, I still need that support. I need that support, and I don't know what to do with my support worker, unfortunately. We have this discussion on a regular basis. So yeah, that's my issue.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come in on that?
You furlough her.
Yes, Mary, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I don't really understand furlough completely, but could you furlough your original support worker and then maybe, I don't know how it works exactly, and then you would have money to have a new support worker? Is that possible?
Can I answer that one, Sharon?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah. So I think this is a thing that we're trying to get government to respond to, because for a lot of disabled entrepreneurs, they have what's called an Access to Work award, and it's that discretionary award that funds the support workers. So it doesn't come from the business directly, because to be frank, often you just couldn't afford to do it. So it isn't that the business was paying it, it's actually that it's paid from a discretionary award through the DWP. And one of the issues with this is, unfortunately, the DWP has certain criteria. And I think what we're all trying to get an answer to is, when things like this are happening, will they allow additionality within the award so that the support worker could continue to be paid alongside somebody else who stepped in? And also, and critically on that, the further criteria about the turnover of the business. So in terms of business interruption, if that affects a business and they do not meet the criteria in order to retain their award, what's going to happen? So it's a brilliant thing, Mary. And is everybody familiar with what they're talking about in terms of furlough and what that actually means?
No.
Okay, Mary, I know you've had a little bit of a look around this, and we do have, on our next briefing, we have actually managed to get a financial advisory firm to come on to the briefing, so they'll help us a little bit better next time. But from what I've seen so far, in essence, it's an incredible thing if you're in that position. So if you have, as a small business owner, an employee, the government will give up to 80% of their wages, and also all of the on-costs, and that includes their tax, national insurance, and apparently, again, we're hearing things, so I'm going to say what I've heard. It may be that doesn't end up being the case, but even things like pension contributions, national insurance contributions. So that was what they were saying on the Martin Lewis podcast, so it's worth everybody having a good look at that. Now, whether the government's going to come back to him and say, actually, no, we didn't mean all of that, is another matter. But it in essence means that you are encouraged not to lay your staff off, and that money will be paid to you. But apparently it's not going to be paid to you till possibly May. So people still have to get to that point. And what Martin Lewis was saying is, can people negotiate with their employer, or you negotiate with your employees about how could you just get through the next few weeks till that money does come through?
Yeah.
So again, it's a pretty good scheme, but it doesn't help most disabled entrepreneurs. It will help those of us that have employees possibly, but it's not going to help us in terms of the support workers that we rely on, unfortunately.
May
Yes,
I
Noreen.
have a
Yes,
question?
Noreen. Yes.
Could there be a case here that sick leave comes into play? Because I'm sure I've read somewhere about the sick leave if they're taken sick with COVID-19, or they have to take time off because they're sick.
Well, that's really interesting as well, because Martin Lewis touched on this as well, because people were initially told that you could go sick the first day. So if you were employed, then that would be the position. But the support workers are most often not formally employed.
No, the self-employed.
Mostly self-employed. But the other thing that he was saying today was that although the government did say you could then go on ESA, and I remember saying this at the time, I didn't think that would work, because ESA is for people that have medical conditions, and what seems to be happening now is that's changing, and people are being directed to universal credit rather than ESA. So it's the disabled entrepreneur who has a self-employed support worker or a number of support workers is in a very difficult position if either somebody is self-isolating for 14 days or they're actually find a support worker, which is not impossible, is put into the 12 week effectively.
Sorry, I apologize, I cut you short there. I've just seen a report from ERC looking at the self-employed. They've only released it today, and it's worth taking a look at it, because they're putting a petition through to government. They work with them in terms of the information they give.
Yes.
So it picks up on all these areas: the self-employed, the contractors who qualify as self-employed, because these are all people who fall between the cracks.
They are, and
they're being picked up. That's all I want to point out.
Well, what we did, we actually sent them the briefing, because I did read what they put out there, and it was picking up the people that were falling through the cracks, but it wasn't necessarily picking up this issue. But they have had a briefing now, so hopefully they will take that forward. So it is. I mean, those are specific issues. So does anybody else have any other specific issues they'd like to raise?
I think that, I mean, for myself, I deal with people who have disability, just in the area of being a personal trainer. And I've got one who her doctor GP said you must continue with your sessions. So, you know, we meet in a park with all the measures in place to keep things safe. But I'm just wondering, in these situations, coming from a health and well-being point of view, is there anything to address issues like this? Because someone who has a disability may not be able to go out for the walk or go for the run because of the situation that they're in, or they may not be aware of what they can do. Do you know if there's anything there that can be addressed?
There's not anything specific at the minute, other than the goodwill of trainers like yourself, like the Joe Wicks, etc., Kelly Holmes, who are all starting to do online things for people, which is great. What we have asked government through Access to Work to consider is to give people, those people have experienced access to the mental health strand of the award. It's interesting, and we've asked them that, you know, to think about this at this time, because people who are already isolated are going to have, this is going to affect their mental health.
Yes.
There's not, you know, this is going to affect everybody's mental health. So we have asked them to make that route easier and perhaps more comprehensive, so that it used to, before the restructure, people used to have access to holistic treatments as part of their award, recognising the difficulties that disabled people face, and that was stopped. So maybe this might be a time to reinstate some of those things through the award.
Yes.
But again, you know, as soon as we get a response from them, then you know, we'll feedback on what their response is to that.
Can I just jump in there? Sorry, Aaron.
It's okay.
Can I just jump in? We're talking about the DWP here. As anybody who's applied for Access to Work knows, that it's actually under the wrong category. And we have spoken about this, I think it was the first week we spoke about this, being in the wrong department. So I feel that maybe we're getting lost a little bit in the thousands and thousands of people that are applying for all these you know, ESA and universal credit and what have you, and we're such a small group as such compared to all the others. I feel we're getting pushed to one side a little bit.
I think it's on the radar in terms of the desire to look at this and give as much information to people in an accessible way as possible, hence we've got the people doing the sign language. I think, unfortunately, this is quite, it's not for us. We eat, sleep and breathe it.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit niche, and the Access to Work Award is niche. Now, the other thing that I didn't touch on then was the other kind of conflict, if you will, in the criteria does mean that, unfortunately, we can't access some of these measures that are being put into place, because if we do, we're in breach of the criteria of our award. So if we were to decide to apply for ESA, for instance, or perhaps universal credit, or some of the other measures, we would have to stop. We'd have to declare that we were not running our business to do that. And I think you've said that, Mary, haven't you? You almost have to stop running your business to be considered to be furlough yourself if you are a company director. So the criteria at the moment of Access to Work Award, which we need, we can't run the business without it. If we step into these other measures, we automatically could lose the award. So it really is a very niche and very complex area and difficult set of circumstances we find ourselves in, and we really do need an answer and some guidance as to, you know, are we doing the right thing? What measures can they put in place to support us? Which realistically is not, it's going to last a lot longer than 3 weeks, I'm thinking. John, was that you speaking?
Yeah, Jackie, can I just come in a moment?
Yes.
One of the things that I've sort of picked up from speaking to various people with Access to Work, there's actually a minimum turnover criteria. Now, obviously, at the moment, there's no way that people are going to be able to reach that minimum turnover criteria.
Yeah.
I just
Excuse
wondered
me.
if you knew what was happening on that sort of situation, whether there was going to be some leeway or where people are.
We've asked a question. We've asked a question through Lady Sharon's MP. I've asked my MP. Others of you have asked your MPs and councillors. My MP did reply and said he'd put these issues to the DWP, but as yet we've had no response. Because you're quite right, John, that is, you know, as we well know, if we do not meet that level of turnover, our reward is automatically taken away from us.
What minimum turnover is it?
They set it as the rate for universal credit, which is quite interesting because they've just increased universal credit by this £1,000. So I do think at the minute, it's not that people are ignoring us, not that they don't want to help us, they just don't seem to know that we're here. So, you know, what I will say again to everybody, please contact your councillor, contact your MP. You know, if you're able to, you know, contact your local radio station, tweet Martin Lewis or whoever, so that at least we can somehow get a voice somewhere. You know, we are putting this on YouTube. These briefings are being seen. I think, did you see something, Noreen, you were saying something like about 125 people looked at what we're doing.
That was in a 2-day period when we set out for the last event, you know, and so they're seeing them, they know it's there.
But the other thing as well, you know, and I can sense that in the people that are here today, people are actually quite frightened of speaking out. People are frightened of rocking the boat because equally they're anxious about losing the reward. If you lose your reward, you lose your business. So, you know, we just need some responses and some engagement, I think, because I actually think once we get that, we will move forward. There are simple things we've asked them to do. We've asked them to suspend the cap. So those of you that don't know, the award is capped at, I think it's 59,000 or something at the moment. We've asked them to suspend it because if, for instance, somebody is at a capped stage and the support worker goes off for 12 weeks, then they're not able to have additionality. So we've asked them to suspend the cap temporarily. We've asked them to suspend the turnover criteria. And we've also asked them to look at perhaps doing assessments quicker for if people are going to be working at home for a long time, so they can have a very quick ergonomic assessment and the equipment. Please don't laugh. The equipment ordered and delivered in a sensible time so people can actually get on and work effectively at home. So we've asked them in respect of the mental health strand of the award. So we've asked the right questions, we just haven't got the answers. What I would say though is that so I've had from a few people that have spoken to them that the advisors are being very positive. So the advisors are saying, well, we know this is difficult, we know, etc. la la la. However, we've not had an official response. And, you know, we just have to keep shouting. We just have to keep trying to get our voice heard. I did think we were having Cameron on from Disability Rights UK today, because if you remember, he had said he would raise it when he has the conversation that Disability Rights UK have with ministers. So he may join us, I'm not sure, and if he does, then we might get a little bit of a steer from him. But please, you know, if you either know anybody, think of any way at all of trying to get this on the agenda. I mean, we're tweeting 2 or 3 times a day. We're emailing. We're hopping onto Twitter sort of trails of people like Martin Lewis and different, you know, Baroness Jane Campbell and Tanny, etc. You know, to try to get this conversation going. But we are in the midst of so many conversations from so many people who are all struggling. So, you know, it's you know, I've fed into question time. If you can think of it, I've tried to feed into it, but it's just not being picked up. And I've even tried to feed into the Office of Disability Issues. It's just not, you know, whether it's not again seen as being newsworthy enough at the moment, I don't know, but we're just not getting it. So any thoughts, anybody, gratefully received. And if there's any, please contact your own counsellor. You don't have to sort of, you have to talk about your issues because they have to act on you as a constituent, but you can talk about the broader context and what we're trying to do when you speak with them. I went along actually with Sharon's constituency MP to a meeting, so it is possible to do this on a broader context, but you have to speak to your own constituency MP and councillor.
May I just interject here a bit
Yes,
further?
Noreen, yes.
Those of you that are in the Manchester area with the BBC offices on your doorstep, please make the most of them, because when they look to actually speak to people, they look for their catchment area, and if they can send a reporter to you holding a mic out, you are easier to get to than somebody having to drive out to them 2-3 hours, which they would rather not do because that falls outside of traveling. So think about that. Sharon, I know you are very close to the BBC offices. I don't know about the others where you are based, but specifically it is worth mentioning you are an inclusive entrepreneur. These are the issues. You want to speak to someone. Just literally go out like that, because they're looking for stories at the moment, and you are a local story for them, so they would pick that up.
I get everything.
Unfortunately, we can't, a different time, we'd have been outside the BBC studio, perhaps, hoping to meet them in the coffee shop. Obviously, we can't do that. So, it is, please, and the more of us do it, the more they'll see there's a trend here and a pattern and something they do need to look at. Okay. All right then. So as I said, if nobody else has got any other issues to talk about, if you don't want to talk about it openly now, please email me. Okay. So response from government, as we said, we've had nothing back, and I did yesterday I contacted my local councillor again and said, please, and she basically just said try to ring my MP, and there was no answer. So it's we are where we are, I suppose. The Access to Work Award we've spoken about, so I think everybody's quite familiar with what those issues are. So if you find yourself speaking to somebody, you never know who you might happen to speak to on Twitter or whatever, then at least you know what the issues are. And in terms of the way forward, all we can do is to continue as we are doing with, a terrible position to be in, just hoping that we're not doing something we shouldn't do, we don't lose our awards. So a very important part of what the Inclusive Entrepreneur does is we don't just look at business strategy and everything that goes with that. It's interesting, I was talking to a researcher yesterday from, I think it's Sheffield University, and she was asking me what makes us a little bit different and what made the programme that I developed different. And for me, it is the health and well-being side of things that we do. I remember when I set up the programme, and I had participants who had been on other kind of perhaps government funded programmes to actually get you into business. And so they tried before, but when they'd completed the programme that we developed, they actually said the biggest difference was previously nobody had actually talked to them about the importance of learning to manage your health condition whilst being an entrepreneur. So everybody was telling them what they needed to do around marketing, accounting, etc. and so on. But actually, until they actually came to terms with, for some people, almost like a way of living that they used to do and the way they would be living their life going forward, and they needed to do that first before they could actually progress as an entrepreneur. So the health and well-being side is really important, and what we're trying to do with these virtual briefings is introduce you to different people. Aaron's very kindly, and Aaron will speak to you in a moment, come on board as our, if you will, our guru, which is very nice. Julie, who is the yoga teacher who runs I'm terrible at pronouncing things, Paranama, has put some things together for people. And then the Really Good Fitness, who we've actually reached out to. It's actually, this came through Ability Today, actually. Ability Today put this out, because I was actually trying to get people to adapt what they do. And actually, this person is doing some incredible stuff for people that are less mobile. So I think this combination of kind of Aaron's depth of experience, Julie sending us some sort of yoga meditation stuff through, and the other element of it, I think is quite a good way to go. Personally, I found it very difficult to get used to this way of working and being, some people call it confined to barracks, and it feels like that sometimes. I'm usually traveling a lot, and I found this really difficult. I found doing some meditation and mindfulness stuff and very, very gentle yoga very, very helpful in terms of trying to manage my anxiety and claustrophobia at this time. I still have been hanging off the Juliet balcony sometimes, trying to get some air in the middle of the night when I'm feeling particularly anxious. But I think it is a really big part of what we're trying to do. So if I could hand over to Aaron, please, at this point.
Sorry, can I just jump in there about Julie? Does she do things for people that have mobility issues that can't?
Yes, she does. So what she was putting together was, she does the gentle sort of things anyway, but she was trying to put together some chair exercises and different things. So yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Aaron.
No, it's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. So at this point in time, one thing I've noticed is that the inability to do life as we have been doing it is becoming a bit of a frustration. I mean, Jacqueline, as you said, anxiousness. If you're not used to being confined in a room and not being able to do much more than that, it is easy to be anxious. Something that I've been doing through my personal Facebook page, but maybe I can bring it through Horizon Health on Facebook, is I do a half an hour Healthy You segment at 1 o'clock every day.
Right, okay.
And so what I do is I look at something to do either like bringing like a spiritual context or emotional, mental health context. How do we address that? Then I bring in something nutritional to help us rather than grabbing the box of cookies or biscuits and all the comfort foods that we like. Looking at some really fresh, simple things to make at different stages of the day. If it's breakfast, like today I did a tropical breakfast with a poached egg and mango and all of that, which was really nice, really fresh. And then I do a 15 to 20 minute segment of a workout where I address, I try and give a workout for whatever your ability is. So for some people, for example, Sharon, you said people who, sit in a chair, for example, to be able to do exercise. So I address those issues and show how, no matter what your level of ability is, you can actually do an exercise and find ways to do that. So it's that holistic approach, just for 30 minutes every day, and just helping people to come out of the confinement and have someone else kind of give them a coach, give them a bit of inspiration and encouragement in that, which I've had some great feedback from around the world.
Brilliant. Universal Inclusion has a page called The Inclusive Entrepreneur, and then we've set up a group. Would it be possible to put a link to that on there?
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right, I'll get Sarah to talk to you about the logistics of that, and that would be really, really helpful. Thank you. So what I'd like to do now is introduce you to Mary Armitage, who's actually just going to do this audio today. And Mary's going to tell us about Cecile Biot and the business that Mary and her co-founder Jackie run together.
Okay, great. Cheers. Thanks, Jackie, for this group and the opportunity to connect with all of us like-minded entrepreneurs. I'd like to acknowledge the coronavirus and obviously the impact that it's having on lives at this time. But for the next 5 minutes, maybe I'd like to share with you the story of Cecile Biot. You're looking at the slide and Jackie's on the left as you're looking at it, and I'm the one on the right there with the black t-shirt. So the story of Cecile Biot starts 47 years ago on the first day of secondary school. And this is when Jackie Smith and myself met. And I think that was a random act of fate because our surnames towards the end of the alphabet. So we got into the same class and we both had wild, untamable hair and we both enjoyed laughing a lot. And actually nothing much changes with that. We've shared life's ups and downs since that day within a group of 6 women who we've all maintained a close friendship with. We've reached an age where we could quite easily grow moustaches and sit and look at the telly, but for Jackie and myself, this is not an option. We've got so much more to do and to give to life. And it's with this drive that we formed Cecile Biot, which I'll tell the tale of the name later if it's of any interest to anyone. But the inspiration for Cecile Biot came after witnessing my daughter Bridie graduate, and she struggled wearing the academic hood during the graduation ceremony. And looking around, I saw that lots of people had the slip-slidey academic hood. I know Lady Sharon, I think you put that on the WhatsApp thing. I went on holiday after the graduation ceremony, had a eureka moment where I saw a product, here we are, that would solve the problem of the academic hood and would give people who were graduating something to keep that had a tangible connection to wearing the academic dress. So I shared this inspiration with our group of friends, and Jackie, with her keen entrepreneurial spirit and her logistical background, said, let's do it. So we did. When we formed the business, we looked inward to see what kind of business we wanted to be. Ethical, sustainable, inclusive and equitable in all our dealings. We took the idea, the concept of the product from design to manufacturing locally, to having it made from recycled polymer, to using British suppliers, local printers and having packaging that's compostable, so that in our way we are hoping with the business to make a difference to the world and to support everything that we believe in. I think probably many of us here today have shared a journey into the unknown world of being an entrepreneur. I think we'll all have common experiences where we've stumbled over obstacles, fallen down holes, banged our heads against brick walls. But Jackie and myself have shared those experiences, but we have gone on to design, develop, market and sell our product, which we call the graduation magnetar, from that initial concept to a finished product. Making sure that we stick to our core values has impacted on the cost of our product, but we're sticking to our principles, and the graduation magnetar can be purchased on our website, representing over 44 universities in the UK. So we're really proud of that. We've supplied our local mayor's office in Bradford with a magnetar, and the Liberal Democrat Party bought magnetars, and we did the Raising the Roof ones there.
You did.
In Liverpool. And prior to the virus, we were looking at exporting the product with help from the Department of International Trade, so we'll just have to see. We've done all of this while we've been working part-time and being carers for elderly parents, and unfortunately and sadly both Jackie and I have lost, our mums have died, and now we have dads to care for, and I've just got to stay on top of all of this, or as well as all of this. Jackie has been diagnosed with 2 forms of blood cancer, and I've put in brackets there, always greedy, but maybe not so much, but which obviously affects her health in quite a lot of different ways, cognitively and with fatigue. But we're fortunate enough to have known each other for a really long time, and we have a let's get on with it approach to life, and I've put that we're unstoppable. Having developed this product and learnt through that experience. We have gone on to develop a second product most recently, and maybe the slide might change to show the Casio.
It will, just the big reveal. 2 seconds.
Yeah, big reveal. And I'll try and do this quickly. So the Cassiopeia there, it says, a lone star shines brightly, a constellation lights up the universe. So the Cassiopeia brooch is handcrafted in the UK using reclaimed silver. The sculptural organic shape takes its inspiration from an ancient Greek fastening called a fibula. The constellation of Cassiopeia is often referred to as the banished queen ruling the night sky, and it derives its name from an ancient Greek myth. Briefly, Cassiopeia, a beautiful woman, was punished for being boastful of her beauty. She was put in the impossible position of having to sacrifice her daughter to save her city. So her daughter was tied to a rock to await her fate, and she was rescued. So Cassiopeia had to be punished, and she was tied to a chair and thrown into the sky, where legend has it she remains to this day, sometimes seen as an M shape and sometimes seen as a W, viewing the world upside down. So we've taken the story in its misogynistic form and we've turned that story upside down. And we want the Cassiopeia brooch to represent the power of being a woman, to say now is the time for women to unite, to say do not feel pressure to sacrifice parts of yourself in order to have the life you choose. So when you see someone wearing a Cassiopeia, you instantly recognise that you have the same core values, that you are a champion of other women and a believer in the power of being kind. By having a visible sign that you are supportive of other women, you can start a conversation online currently, safe in the knowledge that the person shares your values, recognising that we're all part of the same constellation, no matter what age, what race or what ability, we can all shine brightly side by side. So we're saying be the change you want to see by being able to say hello, noha, neha, ciao, guten tag, bonjour, namaste, and meet other wonderful and inspiring women across the universe. We're doing this and we invite people to join us on that adventure. All of this was laid out prior to the current state with the coronavirus, but as a business, as friends, we're looking to innovate the way in which we can take our product and continue to be successful, inclusive entrepreneurs. So I think that's our story. I think that's our story, and thank you for listening to us, and I hope that it was interesting to you all.
Thank you so much. I mean, I love the Cassiopeia. I think it's so wonderful. Does anyone have any questions for Mary and Jackie?
Did you say where the Cecile Biot's name came from?
No, I didn't. So
sorry.
No, it's all right. It's a story. So I'm sure Jackie, you don't mind me saying.
No.
So obviously we've known each other a really long time, and when we were 50 we went to a place called B-I-O-T near Antibes to celebrate being 54 of the 6 of us that have maintained our friendship. And whilst we were there was a basket we called it Cecile.
A shocking basket.
A little lovely French wicker with leather handles, and Cecile anyway became a bit of a character on the celebrating being 50, and she would encourage us to drink more gin and tonics and generally have a good time. So when Jackie and myself was forming the business, we'd never done that before and we didn't take any advice, and so we got excited. It was like naming a band or something. So we thought we'd call the business Cecile Biot after our basket and our wonderful being 50 weekend. But people find it very sophisticated, don't they, Jackie?
No.
They do.
Yeah.
But that's the
Mysterious.
truth of the inspiration of the story, really. It meant something to us. It never occurred to us that it would have to mean something to other people, to be honest. But yeah, so that's the story, Sharon. That's the story.
That's brilliant.
Excellent. Yeah.
Questions?
Nice.
Yes, Mary, that's a beautiful story, actually, and there's a brand story. There's such a lovely story to tell. So you must make sure you spread that story because it makes the brand come more alive. And I don't think you're doing it enough. It's great because also what you're saying is that your brand, which is just almost a manifestation of the great friendship you have, and also the lovely feelings you're trying to spread through the badges and the brooches that you're doing. So yes, I think you definitely should be spreading that story.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Patricia. I agree with Noreen. It's very, very inspirational. And I wonder if I just briefly checked your website. I understand that, you work a lot with universities and apparently, you are open to explore other venues. I wonder if maybe there is other associations with, that look into women, for example, like the Fawcett Society. They have pins and so on. And I wonder if this is something you have explored actually to reach to those associations that, look into women, and maybe they will also be, they usually have a shop online, and maybe they will be interested in partner with you.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's great.
I know international. Sorry.
Go on.
I know International Women's Day and what have you. They have their own. They have their own pins, but maybe if you could get hold of those as well.
Because I'm a member of the Fawcett Society, for example, and they send us pins every year, and I think every member has pins.
Right. What society was that? Sorry.
Fawcett? Maybe I'm.
No, I'm just writing.
Yeah. Is okay. Let me see. FACETT or double T. I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do you think they might be interested in looking at the Cassiopeia or?
Yeah, I think that if you don't ask, you don't get. That's for sure.
It's such a wonderful story, and I think the time's right at the moment for this. It's really good. Right.
Thank you.
I'm putting it into the chat.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Patricia. That was really helpful.
Yeah.
So if we have no further questions, then we'll move into our Q&A session. And what might be rather nice today, whilst we've got Patricia online, as well as, because obviously I took the kind of what I knew would be the access to work stuff earlier in the conversation. Maybe whilst we've got Patricia here, is it worth us having a little bit of a conversation about tech and how that kind of manifests in our businesses, whether it's something that is, do we, like me, run away from it?
And me.
I quite, Patricia, I'm often heard saying to people when they say things to me about what I could do in terms of tech, I'll kind of like look at them and go, really? Or I'll say, I can hear the birds tweeting. But it's probably a nice safe place to actually have a chat about how we feel and, what does the concept of tech mean to us? And maybe, Patricia, you could give us, what you think in terms of business tech can advance some of the things that our entrepreneurs are doing.
Oh,
maybe just listen perhaps to what people have to say.
Yeah, exactly, because I think exactly, it would be better that
all
others
right.
speak.
So maybe shall I kick this off instead of picking on people? All right. Yeah. So from my perspective, so a lot of my work would have taken place in the real world. And I'm very lucky that I have a PA that supports me, in part because of my condition can affect my cognitive function sometimes. So it's quite funny if you would ever to get an email off me or a message that hadn't been proofread by my PA, because it would perhaps just not read as I would expect it to read, etc. So I tend to be very tech averse. However, this new way of working, I'm on a very steep learning curve in terms of tech and the value of tech in taking my business forward. And I'm interested, maybe, you know, when I think of tech, I tend to think of computers and online stuff. I don't really go, you know, I think of tech in terms of innovation and products that can be developed to support people, but that's probably as much as I would ever even consider it when people say tech. So maybe, how do other people feel about that? What does tech mean to other people? John?
Yeah, sorry, I'm here. I was multitasking.
Yeah, it's fine.
What does tech mean to me?
Yeah, and using in your business.
In terms of using in the business, well, it's really just accessibility and being able to achieve things that otherwise I wouldn't be able to achieve.
Jackie, what about you? What's your thoughts on tech? How, you know, in terms of your business, do you embrace it? Do you?
I'm not a tech adverse, but I'm not very modern. I'm still a bit old school, so probably I'm a bit, you know, there's all this tweeting and all, you know, I'm not very good at anything like that, and I think we're missing a trick, both myself and Mary, because we're both, we're not into all that, and it's where to go to get that help, and then plus without feeling a bit silly as well, you know, because people look at you and say, you don't know how to do that. we should.
Well, maybe that's one of the sessions we can include as well, if we can get a tech expert to come in and chat to people. Sharon, what do you?
I mean, my business is online, isn't it? So it's supposed to be, I'm supposed to be tech savvy, but that's gone out. That's gone out the nearest window there. I'm again, like Jackie, tweeting is terrible for me. I mean, if I didn't have a certain person, then nothing would go out. Facebook, yeah, I'm okay with Facebook. But I'm a very private person, and I find telling people what I'm doing every minute of the day very intrusive. And I feel that it can be quite intrusive sometimes. But yeah, I'm not tech savvy.
Your product that I've seen, you know, not all of them, but when I've been to events with Jacqueline, it's a very visual, isn't it?
Yes, mine.
Very visual impact straight away.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know, but we need the ABCs of the basics of how to do things. Certainly we do. It's like feeling a little bit illiterate, really. It's that shame that you feel.
It's like tweeting something, you know, doing it the right way, so it gets seen. Putting the right hashtags on in Instagram, you know, so it gets seen by the right people. It's just a minefield.
So, Aaron, any comments?
Well, yeah, I use tech quite a lot for my business, but for me, is you know, in the personal training side of things, I like to be more one-on-one, face-to-face, just to make sure that those I'm training are doing everything correctly, and be able to make the adjustments necessary. However, given the current climate, I have gone tech with the training, and trying my best to give support by my own demonstration of what I want my clients to do. But when it comes to advertising, I think, Sharon, something that you've hit on, which is very key, the difference between what I do and what you do. You're selling a product where I am the product.
Mm.
And it's understanding that as well. I always believe that and you'll probably agree with me, that people buy the person or the salesperson before they buy the product as well.
Yes, they do. Yes, people always talk to me. So yeah, definitely, I agree with you 100%, Aaron. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just kind of thinking about all that's wrapped up in it. I've been using my house as my studio right now, and it's quite fun to. The kitchen is spotless right now. My wife is loving it because you want to have a good place of presentation. But I think one thing that I found, and that you may find yourselves and others, is the time consumption just to do one thing. So for example, all the meals that I do, I take photos of things from like the ingredients to the process to the finished product. And then I've got to then type up everything about it and then get it out there onto social media, website, wherever I wish to place it. So I think some of it is a game of planning ahead on what is it that you're going to do and try and stick to that strategy as best as you can, and understanding the time consumption, understanding the creativity that you need to get that done. And if you have that support to help you, 100%, that's great. But I think we're all, even myself, kind of like thrust into an environment that we're not used to. Because I think we're more of a generation, if you will, that we are more of a face-to-face, let's do business over the phone type of people, rather than seeing each other through a virtual reality.
Almost like that, sort of like you want to see the colour of somebody's eyes almost at the point that you decide whether you'll do business with them or not. So it's very, very, very different. Noreen, do you have any comments?
I do. Actually, I've been sitting here nodding my head and smiling as I'm hearing you all. I don't know if you know what I do, but I actually deal with tech is part of what I do, very much part of it, as is social media, as is marketing, as is communicating across the different channels. And it's funny because what we're doing now, we're all on screens, we're all looking at each other. This technology has been around for the last 20 years. I still remember 25 years ago when I used to be sitting down on what used to be called ICQ, and I'm sitting there communicating with people globally, sending text messages, having 6 conversations at the same time, and then forgetting who I'm speaking to. And that was early days, before the days of Skype got really better and all the other channels, started hitting off. Tech today, see it as a tool, and I think it is important that you actually know your boundaries and set boundaries. So we're talking here, I mean, you see my background, I have a beautiful background behind me. You're not seeing my front room. I've separated a working environment from my home environment so that I have a clear distinction. Otherwise, I'm giving away too much of myself all the time. Aaron, as you said, I am the product. A lot of the stuff I do is IP, it's mental, it's the work we're doing. So it is important, especially if we may be having 3-4 months going through a situation like this, that you actually know what you want to be a private persona and the public persona. So as Sharon is saying, Sharon has a persona online. She's Glamsticks, the Glamsticks wonderful family, beautiful products. There's a certain tone of voice she uses with people, and that is fine. It's not the same tone of voice she's using with her family. And she actually has 2 separate accounts, one of which is business, one of which is personal and friends. Same as Jacqueline. Jacqueline has Universal Inclusion, which is business, and Jacqueline Mustanley, which is personal. And it is important to have that, because otherwise you're intruding too much and the boundary line disappears. And when do you stop working and when do you start being you? I know being you and being authentic happens all the time, because otherwise you're not selling. And Aaron, what you said is actually really, really vital. People buy people before they buy products, services, or anything else. So you need to come across, but it is really important that you actually can put distinction. And I think especially within the universal inclusion world, the inclusive entrepreneurs, because the time in which you work may be different from when everybody else is working. You may be looking at things from a different perspective. You may be in pain today and I still have to go and face people. Then I think it is important to mentally have that break. And I don't know, Aaron, how this fits in into what you say about health and well-being, because I'm sure there you can see the foundation where I'm coming from. It gives me sanity that I can actually say, this is my private space and I like it to stay private. I don't want that to go public. So in terms of tech, I mean, if we like, I'm quite happy to run a few intros, how to handle social media, if you're finding it scary, or how you should be dealing with tech. That's not a problem, and Jacqueline and I could set that up. Because I think it's something, it's just familiarity with the tools. That's all they are. They are all tools, and don't get scared of them. We used to, in our good old days, look at television and video and think, oh my God, how am I going to program? Do you know, I still don't know how to program a video machine. I'm lucky, I don't need to know anymore. It superseded it so much. But through all my life, I never learned how to do it. I decided I can't be bothered. That's it. I don't need to spend time on this. Mentally, I was fine. It didn't scare me. I know how to put a video in the video machine and it works, but I cannot record. I don't know how to record. Never worked that out. I can do it online. I can do it through my computers and stuff. That is my own little peculiarity, which I've gone through life as an adult, as a very tech fluent adult, and I'm very proud of it. So what I mean to say is it's not scary. Don't see it as an unsurmountable barrier. It is a machine that switches on and switches off, and that's all. It's all binary, an on-off situation. So once you get your head around it, it's easier to understand, and you don't need to be scared of it. And also, you need to remember, everybody is in the same situation. The small portion of us that are used to working with tech, we are in the minority. The majority are all sitting there in their nice smart top, pajama bottoms and slippers going, hi, I'm on Skype. And believe me, the world is doing it at the moment. I bet you Boris, if he could, would do it as well, because he'd be comfortable with just the top part. He's sick. So, you know, it's just a way of getting more familiar with the technology.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So again, it's sort of, so I think for most of us, we view tech maybe as how we communicate virtually. Is that it, and how we present ourselves. That would be my perception of it anyway. So, but what are your thoughts, Patricia, having heard that?
I think that is part of tech, and I would say it's a little bit like if you will only consider that British food is all the food that there is in the world. Yes, British food is part of food, but there is so much more to food. Okay, so yeah, tech, there is a lot of the digital aspect that, you know, Noreen is an expert. And it made me laugh when she said that ICQ has 20 years. Actually, I remember using ICQ in 92 during my master. I'm 50. Well, so I do remember doing ICQ actually. So I will say there is a part that is also accessibility. For example, you know, I write emails, but I now use a lot of Google Docs. For example, I dictate a lot of emails because you can just speak and then, you know, the typing is done, you know, basically for you. So there is a part of make your life easier. It's not only, you know, social media is important, but also there is other things like make your life like Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint. So there is a part that to be useful, you know, it makes just, you know, instead of a notepad or sending a telegram, you are using an email. There is the other part, which is, as you said, innovation. That is very much at the core of what I do in my job. For example, some of the software that we create in our company is to create new polymers, new materials, also new drugs. There is also, we do for everything that is design, when you design a house or you design a plant, or when you design, for example, logistics. All of that is run, for example, in an airport, how things are moving around, you know, there is, all of that is monitored. So there is all the part as well of compliance. You can use software as well to track everything that you do with your business. So there is all these, I think all of it is technology as well. And also a lot of wearables. Maybe some of you have Fitbit and so on. All of that is supported by your apps. So there is a part of connectivity, a part of digital, a part of innovation. And I completely agree with Noreen that, you know, you need to, don't, you know, we are all have to come to this with growth mindset at the end, because, you know, we are all at different stages and you don't need to master all. You know, for example, if maybe Twitter is not my thing. I tried a little bit of times and I'm like, this is not really my medium. You know, and I feel more comfortable maybe with Instagram, and it's a different way. And it needs to be something that you feel comfortable, that it has your pace. And also, this is a little bit like food batching. You can have, as I'm sure Noreen may explain more, that you have scheduling tools that may help you to do just like a morning, for example. You know, a lot of people that tweet, actually, they spend a morning a week. They do all the tweets or all the things, and then they schedule it, and it just goes along. But, you know, there is videos as well, people that feel more comfortable with YouTube. So I think, you know, being open to this is something everybody's experimenting. And, you know, you can give it a try. 1 month, let's do Twitter full. And then 1 month doing YouTube, and just try maybe to see what you feel comfortable. And maybe as well your customers. Your customers maybe are not in Twitter, actually. You know, your customers, maybe they love to have a newsletter 1 a month.
Yeah.
So, and I'll be help, you know, you are the expert, Noreen, but anything I could help. I've been, I work from home. I've been working from home for 7 years, and I've been managing people remotely for more than 12 years. So if there is anything I could help the team about what I've learned, I've been teaching my colleagues about what it is, you know, because I feel very comfortable from home, you know, acting on that. I'll be help, you know, I've created a deck for my colleagues, so I'm happy to help as I can.
Thank you. Well, I think that was a really great session today. And thank you everybody, because it, you know, couldn't do it without you. And it's great. I think considering somebody that was completely petrified of doing this, and I really was, it's actually quite enjoyable, and I think it is doing what I hoped it would do. So just a reminder that we do have the LinkedIn group. We now do have a WhatsApp group set up as well, just so we can connect in other ways. The WhatsApp group is a bit more informal. This is obviously recorded, so we do have to be watch our P's and Q's in this one. And obviously the LinkedIn group is where we'll put updates throughout the week. So people, you know, if we hear anything about another measure that's being put in place, we'll put it in there. And I think I put a few things in there from Farrah and Co that have done some really good. They're actually fellow solicitors, and I did the Women in Sport series with them, and they contributed the report they did about women in sport. But they've done a few really very simple, easy read summaries of what the government's put in place. So it's worth having a look at those as well on the LinkedIn group.
Can I just interrupt you there? What is the LinkedIn group? Because I can't find it.
Right, okay. So if you go on the Universal Inclusion page, so search that, and then there's within that, I might have Sarah to send out some instructions, but then there is the Inclusive Entrepreneur page, and then there's a group.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Well,
and also, can I just interrupt?
Yes.
On Saturday, I'm doing the thing on Saturday. I am involved with fashionability, and they've done a couple of months. of me and what have you, and they've asked me to be part of a Let's Go shopping day. Now they're actually in America, but they've asked me to, and there's quite a lot of people involved. So if you fancy a shopping day on Saturday, it is American time, so but English time I'm on at 8:30. Now if you want to know more about that, then please have a look on my Twitter feeds, because Noreen's put it out there on my Facebook feeds, and I will be featuring quite a few items on there for different things and what have you. But yeah, so that's, it's hashtag Let's Go Shopping. So yeah, so if, and I'm on,
is that 8:30 in the morning you're going to be on?
no,
8:30 at night, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say,
because there's a certain program that everybody clings into,
oh,
and that finishes before my time slot.
okay.
So,
But if you want to put that on the LinkedIn page as well, when Noreen gets you on there, that's great. All right, lovely.
all right, lovely.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, and it's great to see everyone. And oh, that's the other thing as well. I think what we decided was some people may not want the briefing on Good Friday.
No.
So we're thinking of, excuse me, we're thinking of doing it next Wednesday if people feel comfortable doing it on the Wednesday.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So same time, excuse me, but Wednesday.
Okay.
Just for next week. Okay. All right. Thanks ever so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.